Welcome back to another episode of the Dreams Portal podcast. And in this one is very special because we will have a panel discussion with two of most wonderful guests, Dianne of Sacred Line Integrations and Abby Salinas of Abby Salinas Crowdology. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for being here and talk about nightmares.
Thank you, Ileana. Hello, Dianne.
Hi, ladies. Great to be here, and hello.
So, nightmares is a hot topic in dreams, dream interpretation, and in our most recent episode with Dianne about shamanic dreams, there's a whole philosophy or body of knowledge surrounding nightmares. But we know now that nightmares for us in our personal experience are transformed. There was something that we believed growing up that there were nightmares or bad dreams or dreams that we woke up so scared and to the point that we didn't want to go back to sleep. Mm-hmm. But today we see these events differently. So I want to start the conversation with you ladies sharing what was that you call nightmare at some point in your life before you're starting your spiritual journey?
Okay, well, I have not had a nightmare since I was a child. And as we discussed, I believe in another episode of yours, some of my nightmares were very premonition based. So at some point they would come true. So I'm going to separate those from the nightmares because the nightmare is a very different theme. And I remember as a child, and I believe I touched on this also, I kept having this reoccurring dream that was a reoccurring nightmare where a gorilla, for whatever reason, it was a gorilla. He was always outside our house door, whether we were at an apartment or we were in our home. Every time my life changed and another sibling came along, they would show up in my dream. It would be the new house, it would be the new place, even the new car in the front. But it was always this gorilla, this giant ape, and I would be petrified, but I felt very strongly I had to get my family out of the house. And it was always the children, it was always my mother, and I could not figure out, and I was always looking. Ironically enough, I would run around the house looking to make sure I didn't forget anybody, and I could not find my father in the house. But yet when I would run outside, he'd be in the car. So it was always me getting everybody out of the house, getting them to the car, and then going back to do a final check. And I must have had this dream from the time I was like 5, because I remember the houses that I was in. So I know my age that I was during that time. It must have been from the time I was 4 or 5 years old until I was like 16 that I had that dream. It was so weird, and it was repetitive and it was very scary for me. But around the age of 16, I started realizing how I could manipulate my dreams. And a friend of mine that came to live with me, a high school friend, she was very intuitive, very psychic. And together we figured out, I shared my dream with her, and together we were learning how to manipulate it. And I would jump in and change it, jump in again and alter it until finally I no longer had that dream.
Wow, at age 16, you started transforming and manipulating your dreams. That's
yeah. Well, there was so much occult books out there. There were so many things in those days that you could pick up books on dreams by the masters and stuff. So yeah, that wasn't that unusual at that time to find those things. I'm not talking about like modern books like we have now. I'm talking old books, very, very old books. So it was very cool.
Wow. How about you, Dianne?
I do not remember having very many nightmares at all. As a child or, as growing up. And so when I like from the 5 to, 16, 17, 18, older adult, I would have dreams of like, I remember like I felt I was running. I don't know if I never remember if I was running away from somebody or, I mean, I'm sure I maybe was in some of those, but I just remember I was always like running from something. And then for years I didn't have any, because I had my medical problems. And of course, then I had the traumatic experiences like Ebby was talking about. And I know those weren't nightmares. It was just a recurring thing from the traumatic experiences in my health. But I didn't account those really as nightmares because I knew exactly what that kept, that concern was with my health. But then after I started working on myself and started learning some of these things, I've never gotten to Ebby's point where I could go in and manipulate that I recall. But the dreams I would start to understand after, like I said, I've met you ladies, to go in and start understanding what they were meaning. And I would start to get these long dreams. And like some of the girls in the group would get these long dreams. And I remember saying to my spirit guides, I'm like, you want to give me a message, you keep it short and sweet. So I knew exactly what it is. So now when I do have dreams, I have when I wake up, I have a very specific part of the dream that's very vivid, and I know I have a gut feeling on what it means. So my experience has been pretty different because I know some people have ongoing nightmares, but fortunately I'm not one of them. So
Wow. Well,
Donna, have you had nightmares yourself?
yes. And it's always that age, 4 or 5 years old. And my earliest nightmares were two, actually. One is in the house I was born, in the back of the house, I was being burned. So I remember myself lying in the flames while my mother was walking away. So that was one. The second is still in the same house, and is being surrounded by just pitch black, nothing, like nothingness, void, or even opening the front door to just dark. I don't know if I can call that a nightmare. I guess when you're a child, that scares you because it's the consistent being scared of the dark. But these days, yes, I have had dreams recently where everything gets dark, and I don't mind. I'm just like, whoa, when did this get so dark all of a sudden? But like I was telling you in the last episode, Dianne, that I was, and it takes me back to when I was a kid, walking back to the house, and everything got dark. And I was like, I just need to get just right there. I can walk through this wall of darkness, but not a big deal. So those were the two. Talking about transformation or what those meant, many years ago, not age 16, more like 3 times 16, I met Jamie, and she did the soul aligning for me. And in one of those past life that she checks on that have relevance, and I have to clarify that it's not that she does past life therapy, is that the contracts or whatever residual energy you're carrying is what she retrieves, just to check what was the event. She found out that I died in a fire as a child during the Revolutionary War. So that's that my had to be with remembering in sleep time, remembering that traumatic event, which brings me to some really quick disclaimer that I want to make for our audience. This episode is in no way related to bad dreams or nightmares associated to traumatic events or that you have experienced in your 3D life at the moment. So if anybody listening has a situation like that, reach out to the licensed professionals that can help you with that experience. The contents of this discussion is purely metaphysical. So anyways, going back to that fire, well, yeah, I had that when I was a child, but not again. And it's interesting because obviously if I was being burned, I was dying, but I had never had a bad dream or a nightmare um, associated to dying or having the fear of death, which is another thing that happens in many nightmares. So those were my experiences at an early age. Then I learned that there were other things. You mentioned something, Abby, about a premonition dream. I believe I shared this with you after we did that episode of premonition dreams. And it's amazing. Well, you get to the age that you start forgetting things. But I did have this dream. I wouldn't categorize it as a nightmare, but I'm sure for some people might be the subject of a nightmare. I'm gonna touch on that really quick. When I was in college, I had this professor. I can say his name, Dr. Avila, Dr. Ricardo Avila, who's the professor of electromagnetics, and I was one of the lucky ones that I had electromagnetics 1 and 2 with him. so, so after a year with Dr. Avila, he left for his country. He's from Chile. And aside from the class, we will always have conversation. I remember back then one of the conversations we had was time traveling, which I wasn't too crazy about, but he explained the physics behind that. Anyways, Dr. Avila left, and I felt that, he was a guy, within the circumstances, enjoyable. There's a whole cultural
Stick to the
thing.
point.
Okay, so well, nobody reaches out to an electromagnetics professor. So anyway, the thing is that I wanted to see, well, how is it going, what happened to him, because I had this dream with him, and this dream is a 30-year-old dream. And in this dream, I see him drawing crosses on the ground. It's nighttime. I have a lot of dreams that are nighttime. And I wasn't part of the dream, but he was in this place going to different places in the ground, marking crosses. I was like, whoa, what happened to this guy? Did he die or something? So I managed to get his address, and I wrote a quick note to him, and I received a letter from him. And it turns out that when he returned to his country, which was shortly after the dictatorship ended, he was part of a commission investigating human violation crimes. And one of the tasks he was in charge of was uncovering shallow graves.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So that should have gone in the premonition.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But I forgot. Like it's 30 years old. The dream just came to me after that. But being a dark in that setting, not a big deal. I was more curious than anything, but there was something, and I remember Jamie mentioning in that episode about the Dream Master that our guides start giving us little things here and there to let us know what we are capable of doing and where are we going to get with our clairvoyance. So anyway, I wasn't scared. I was concerned, but I'm sure for people living that traumatic events of those years, that was a big deal, a big deal. And probably a family member having that kind of dream. Yeah, a big deal.
But here's the thing. It's a big deal to them, but it's not a big deal to you. It really isn't. And a lot of times we get these dreams with other people playing roles out in our dreams, and oftentimes they are just playing a role in the dream, and
Mm,
it still is about us. So while you were having that dream, it could have also been kind of like a wink to you, to show you what you're capable of doing at that time and place, and how you're developing through your dream mastering yourself. And I got to tell you, I think um, the best material of all, and I listen to a lot of things about dreams, is the episode you have with Jamie Darrow. I thought that was like out of this world. It was so concise, and it was so clear, and it really gives people a lot of tools. Now, going back to the nightmares, I think that, like Dianne said, we figured out early on, before we even came on to our group, how to change the dreams, the scope. Like, I hate being chased, do not
mm,
like it. But it does, if I'm running in a dream, that doesn't mean it's a nightmare. I don't like it, but I don't feel that that really qualifies as a nightmare, because I always feel very in control. So I can, instead of being chased, there's something that goes off in my head or in my mind that says, do you want to chase or be the one chasing? And I just turn around and I start chasing what is chasing me, because what am I running away from? So, in order for me to know, I turn around and now I go after what is coming after me. And normally it
mm,
just dissipates. But our nightmares really are symbolic of what is it that we're afraid of? Is it the dark, of the unknown? That's pretty common, right? Pretty common. And like you gave in your disclaimer, we won't even touch on that. But with so many of the things going on in real life, so many of the movies, the way they're being made nowadays, graphics were being exposed at so many levels, you
yeah.
know. So those are all things that will come through. I just did a dream interpretation today, and it was very disturbing for the person who had the dream. But after I broke it down and we talked about it, it is more about her concern with speaking, what the direction she's going in, what it is she's doing. She had a dream about her mentor. She had a dream about her boyfriend's mentor. So it was like a mentor thing, and it was disturbing. But after you break it down, you come to realize this person is wanting to step into the role of a mentor, but she she's concerned with what happens to mentors. If you're a mentor, you're speaking for something. You're exposing what you believe in. You're speaking
Mhm.
your truth, and that holds you up to criticism. So while she's seeing these mentors dying or killing themselves or what getting harmed, it's really goes back to her. Is she ready to stand up to the scrutiny for what she believes in? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And embarrassment, put up with
Just
the pressure,
yeah, it was
put
a real
yourself out
interesting,
there,
it was a
or
very, very
disappoint,
interesting,
or
very
disappoint as a
interesting.
mentor.
Or what if what you think you believe in, like we're always told, today, this is what I'm giving you today. Everything is subject to change because nothing stays the same, you know?
Mhm.
And be challenged also. I
Exactly.
can see many fears associated with being a mentor. We're not living in the times that authority is not challenged, especially in a
Hmm.
learning environment. That's not how it's meant to be.
Right.
Uh, I can see that being a nightmare or a bad dream, but it's a dream that brings up something that she needed to reach out to. So that's one of the subjects of nightmares, our own fears. What about the fear of death? I personally have never had a nightmare
We're
that I
all
fear
shaking
for
our
my,
heads.
so
We're all
none of
shaking
us.
our head. No.
Okay, so people are not gonna come to us for advice
Yeah,
with that, but
yeah.
it's a primordial fear. It's out
I
there.
don't I don't know about that. I don't know. I think that on some level, it all depends on where your head is at about death in itself, you
And
know?
also, we always talk about how things are symbolic. So somebody may see a death, perhaps their own death, but that could be a death of an aspect of them. That could be a death of, like if they're at a job they don't like, it could be the ending of that.
Transformational.
Transformation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, symbolic and metaphors are, I think so much at the root of so many dreams as we try to interpret them.
And if you keep going in that dream, oh my God, how many, I don't know about you guys, but I lost count how many times I've been shot, an arrow got me, somebody stabbed me, but I never thought I was going to be dead. I knew I was going to get up off the ground and still keep walking. Like I never just laid there and died. Because I knew I was dreaming. So you just get up. Like,
Even when I was doing my tour in Afghanistan, I wasn't afraid for my life. So I guess that puts me in a weird category
you're in
because
the weird bucket like we are. It's
yeah,
I mean, how many times all three of us have been in situations where death would have been so simple, to step into, and here we
yep,
are not afraid.
yeah,
That's an
but
interesting point because, like in my physical world, I should have been very concerned, with my health problems, as you ladies know, but I don't recall any dreams of me dying.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
same here.
yeah, exactly. So
You
just
would
to
have thought
those,
it would have come into a nightmare for us, the
yes,
Right.
three of us. No,
yes,
nothing.
if anything, yeah, in a nightmare that this is it, this is the moment that the plane is going to be shut down. This is the moment of we got hit and that's it, party's over. But you know what, we have a saying in the Caribbean, is nadie se muere en la víspera, meaning nobody dies on the eve. It is when it is.
Oh.
Not before. So
True. True.
maybe it was that, maybe again talking about beliefs, but no, I never had that. I did have not too long ago, months ago, and again, the way I reframe this, or I see this as I took a wrong turn on Astro Lane, took an early exit, and there was somebody in my bedroom coming with a pillow
Oh, yeah.
over
Yeah.
my face.
I want to apologize for that. I must have been sleepwalking when I was visiting.
Maybe there might be a list. So,
Mhm.
but again, not something that actually I was kind of bad, not scared. Like, this is my space. Nobody comes here without my permission, which is something that those who categorize themselves as suffering from nightmares can do an affirmation before going to sleep. The same way we do the affirmation or set the intention that whatever comes in our dreams is for our guidance or greater good or to help somebody else. If somebody's afflicted, in the absence of a better term, with nightmares, you can set up an intention that your dream state is going to be peaceful and restful, and whatever guidance you get or experience is for your greater good. So start with that, because I get asked about remedies for nightmares, and I'm sure in your practices, in seeing your clients, you see one or two that are going to come to you what can I do to avoid nightmares? In my case, yeah, I can recommend crystals that are gonna clear your environment of certain vibrations or maintain a high vibration. But at the same time, no remedy is permanent. Something has to go to the root of what is the nightmare. And even when my subject is crystals, I'm not a proponent of having the bedroom filled with crystals. I believe the bedroom should be kept in a neutral kind of
Yes.
vibration, not put anything there that can disrupt your sleep, because you sleep for many reasons, not only for what we do, is also our physical body needs to sleep, and high vibration can, if you're not attuned to that, which is the case of the nightmares too, you have a vibration that is synchronizing with that kind of energy. So something has to be done to take it a step further and to correct that situation.
I think Abby brought up a great point when she was saying how she helped someone today. But even with dreams and with nightmares, I think the dream journal is, or recording it with a voice recorder, you can get as many details as you can remember about the nightmare, maybe different, whoever you saw, where it was, what you were feeling when you woke up, warm, cold, all those kind of, anything you can remember, because like Abby said, then you can start breaking it down and looking behind the maybe symbology, the metaphor, what that person means to you in the waking hour, and looking at it then at looking at it from an outside person looking into the dream, even though it is what it means to you, but looking at with a different aspects, meaning breaking it down makes it a little more simple and helps you maybe address it, in your waking state. So then when you do sleep, you maybe have some resolution on some things that were brought up in that quote nightmare. Abby,
Yeah, that's a valid point, because when I talked to the person, she did not even consider how I laid it out to her. And think of how often this has happened to us, where we'll have a dream and we really think it's about those people.
Yeah.
I'm there to tell them to be careful because they fell and they were bleeding from the head, all these things, but it's in those details that you can put it together, weave it together, and then tell your story. Do this in your waking state too. Oh my God, look at the symbols that we have in our waking state, translate those. And because sometimes you're going to work and there's your living nightmare, there's you're living the nightmare of going there and feeling out the same anxiousness, the same disturbance, you know, trans look at it, break it into its detail and look at it again. And chances are you'll have a better understanding of that experience.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, that brings me to what both of you said, and it's in shamanic space, in shamanic practice, there's a completely different view of nightmares. And there's a principle, Dianne, jump in at any time, that nightmares are tools for spiritual development. And also there's another principle in shamanism that spirit kind of trains us in our sleep state. So that's kind of a hard sell for a person who's suffering for nightmares, but we touch on, we introduced the subject in the last episode.
Like we were talking in our pre-conversation about how a spirit, again, is just a messenger. How the people perceive it in their dreams, that could be a spirit coming through with a message. And depending on, let's say they had a connection with their grandfather, they could perceive that quote person coming to them in the dream with a message, or somebody hanging them or whatever it was. But it's just how the person is perceiving it. In shamanic, of course, everything's a spirit, everything's alive, everything has a spirit. So blending it in that way, any part of the dream would be a message from, quote, a spirit.
Everything is alive in shamanic space. So even what we call in our waking hours, the dead ones. So in shamanic space, there's no death.
Right.
Right.
So that's really important for people to understand that concept, because we have the tendency, I said we, as in a cultural collective, the culture I come from puts a lot of weight on the dead, as
Yes.
in that just by virtue of dying, they become wiser. They're still
Well,
the
also look at,
same
but
people,
look at it.
just dead.
Well, not necessarily, because as as we have come to learn, you know, there's fragments that are left behind. There's their higher purpose, you know, their higher selves. And I think a lot of these spirit things, that the discussion on spirits, this is a spirit that comes to us. I think there's so many now that are more like Dianne, the modern shaman. So whereas it would be in the past, or in some of the cultures that are being taught, uh, everything is a spirit. Well, now the modern shaman tends to also view everything can be your own spirit, your own variations of yourself, and not necessarily something separate from you, like another spirit came in, or it is your higher self that's showing itself in that way. You know, I think that we've expanded our thinking and how we understand these things so much more than they were 50 years ago.
Oh
Well, and
yeah.
Abby, this might be a good point to share my little story. I had gone on a journey and I was going into hospitals to help heal people, whatever whatever dimension I was in that day. And I had done this for what, 3 or 4 months, I think, Abby.
Yeah, it
And
was a long
then
time.
I did it for quite a while. And then one day I walked into a room because I would just visualize myself going through hospitals, and I was guided to go to a wing, a room, whatever. And I walked into the room and I looked at the woman sitting next to the bed, and it was my mother. And
Yeah, I love this story.
and then I looked at the person in the bed, and it was me.
Oh.
And so I asked my guides who were leading the healing session, my guides, spirit guides, and I'm like, what am I to do? And they're like, you know, the stomach, the digestive system. And so they guided me over, and I did healing work on myself in that journey, astral travel, whatever phrase you would like to use, and was doing healing work on myself. And I completed what I was guided to do, like I said, because I was so shocked. Of course, I was just listening to the guidance I was getting and following it. And I mean, did I talk to my mom? I don't remember if I
I
did.
thought I had encouraged you. I thought you did. I thought you did.
I have to go back and
Yeah.
look at my notes. But yeah, so then I left though. And then I was, when I came out of my finish, I think I called Ebby right away.
Yeah.
And she was just like, well, yeah.
Because think of this, there's probably this variation of this essence of you and your mother playing this out, like a loop, over and over in some place.
Dimension.
Yeah. And so you took care of that. I love that story. I thought that was so cool when you shared it.
And it was, yeah. But you asked me the question if I remember back to the time when I was laying in the bed, if I remember anybody coming and working on me. And I did not, because I'd been in the hospital so many times, I didn't remember, and there were so many times that situation would have played out, that my mom was sitting beside me because she was with me through so much of it, through all of it, of course, but physically right there. So that's a cool part that you brought up. There's different aspects of us all over. So it's collecting those pieces and going to heal those pieces if we're able to either collect the old aspects of us or heal those aspects.
That's interesting that you said the different aspects of us, and how many people are scared to see themselves in dreams.
Well, it's freaky when you're seeing them in a dream and in person. It's both freaky.
Well, but the part of not looking like, I have a lot of dreams. I don't even have to dream to see my own image looking back at me. And for many people, that might be, and I don't understand why would that be upsetting or something that just started them
It is,
seeing their
that's a
own
better word.
image.
That's the better word. It's very
Okay.
startling when you first see it. It's very startling, and because you don't expect it to at some point enter a room or whatever, and all of a sudden there you are, you
Mhm.
know. And I've seen it in person, and but it was another person, but she looked so much like me. She had the same car as I did, and she was causing quite a dilemma at the college I was at. And I kept saying, no, that wasn't me. And then I finally ran into her at a stop sign. And that was very freaky to me. That was just freaky. But in a dream, also, it's just startling at first. And then then I can ease into it, you know.
Well, we can ease into it and get used to that, but the fact remains that for many people that is like a no. And I wish I can understand why is that so bad.
I don't think it's that it's so bad, it's so new. It's
Mm,
not that it's so bad. It's not so. Think of this: how many people in the general public really have so many discussions about dreams? They'll share their dreams, but there's really not a big discussion of really dissecting or how they occur, why they occur. So while you're having all these dreams about, some rock star in your dream or
mm.
somebody you haven't talked to in 20 years, it's usually about other people, that you're having these dreams about. So when you see yourself in a dream, it's just very off-putting. It's just something that doesn't probably occur very much, or that they even thought could happen, you know.
I'm always in my dreams.
What?
I'm
What?
always in my dreams.
Right. Not
But
right. But do you ever run into you? Like you're in your
Oh,
dream
like
and
another
then
version
you're
of me.
another
Besides another
version.
time,
or
no.
Yeah.
just staring
Yeah.
at you, like
Yeah.
you
Coming up
you
and
just
looking at you,
yeah, coming up and looking at you, like staring down at you.
Not in
Yeah.
that. No, I
Yeah.
had a couple
See,
of times
No.
where I saw myself, but it was from a distance and it wasn't up close. So yeah.
yeah, that would be a good thing to put on your comments, you know.
Yeah, how many people had that dream?
Comment if you've seen yourself. What was that like?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Seeing yourself, but outside of the context of
of
a
your
past
yes,
life, because
right,
past life is like you are a player in the movie and you
exactly.
know who you are, and in faces and places might look slightly different, and that's why you know that is a past life or a different experience. But seeing like your reflection or you looking back at you as you
Uh,
look now,
yes,
uh
and an iteration of yourself, exactly who
an
you are
iteration
right
of
now,
yourself.
whatever age is it occurs in, but it is you in this timeline interacting or intersecting with you.
Or just you with yourself. How scary can that be?
Well, I would like to do that, but again,
I mean, we're different than most people.
yeah, that
Yeah.
is true. That is true.
Or the symbolism can be there. For some people, that might be the ultimate nightmare, facing
But
themselves.
think of this. We also, the three of us, I know Diane and I have talked about this. We've done guided meditations where we've taken people to a
Mm,
place where now they see themselves in that
Mhm.
place. So that's why it's not so odd to me, because we're already training for those things, to have a heartfelt discussion or to give yourself compassion, while you're in a meditative state. Dreaming is not that different.
yeah, yeah, it
No.
shouldn't be. Um,
But just
so
as a disclaimer, I would freak out if I started chasing me. I'm just gonna put that out there.
well, you had the thing about the chase,
I
which
don't
is
like to be chased.
yeah, it's but it's interesting that you had those dreams about the chase, because one thing that you advise people and I know that you have done that with clients and family members, is stop chasing life. It's a theme that comes to you
Stop
as
running away from life.
yeah, it's,
Mhm.
it's something that is a thing that comes to you as a light worker and as a healer, chasing. And for some people, yeah, it's scary being chased, because the next thing that you jump into is fear for your life. What's going to happen to me? And it's the unknown. I think that the thing with the nightmares is fear. It's the element of fear that keeps preventing us from digging deeper and taking that experience and put it in a different context and see the symbols and embrace some concepts that might be hard to embrace for many people, like what Dianne just said about everything is spirit and there's no death in dream space. And for us, for all of us, is the different versions of ourselves. And maybe getting that over that notion that we are unique. Well, we are and we're not. There are different versions of ourselves, and all of them not probably on the same path, or not working towards the same evolution goal. So the element of fear, I think, is what makes people separate nightmares from the sweet dreams. And
Well, think of this too. Nightmares are the only, I mean, think of the dreams you've had where you felt compassion for what's happening. You see somebody, your grandmother, somebody endearing to you. You feel that sense of love when you see this person, right? You have a beautiful view, you experience that feels good. But
mhm,
when you're in a state of fear, this is when your body is actually emitting adrenaline. So you get that rush of adrenaline, that fight or flight, and you can literally feel it in your nightmare. So
yes,
that's a very, that is, it feels very physiological. It takes over your body. Whereas the other changes in emotions are pleasant, this is one that is not, and you feel it. So that's another thing that'll trigger you in your nightmare and make it unpleasant.
Mhm.
yeah. But both have an effect on your body and in
But
your
one
brain
is
chemistry.
scary,
But
but
one
one is,
is, yeah, one
yeah,
is not pleasant.
yeah.
It's something. But and again, in that moment when we go to sleep, where is our vibration? What is our intention? And that might seem that it's not enough for many people that believe themselves that they're afflicted by nightmares, quote unquote, but it's a start. And look, I know it's easier said than done, but we have to go go deeper in that sense. So I think we have had a really good conversation about this topic. I will like for you ladies to give your final comments to those listening to us when they're facing with this what I call the wrong turn on the astral lane.
Well, I would like to say that these are like, I think we covered really valid points. We gave very good tools for people to use. And on a side note, I understand that nightmares for people are one thing, night terrors are another. So if you're afflicted by night terrors, this is not necessary. You're going to have to do something different, because that is really a very different topic altogether. But for what we believe we're struggling with nightmares, these are easy to dissect. These are easy to turn around and have a different point of view, which will change the landscape of it.
Thank you, Abby.
Hmm.
I agree completely. Just as we noted, maybe write them down or record them and talk to
Hmm.
them talk about your dreams with other people. And like, it is meant on how you interpret it, but having somebody else look at it from like the outside and give you a different perspective to look at, that can sometimes open your eyes to like, maybe there is just something that you need to address. in
Exactly.
your waking world, and dissecting it is a great way to do that with somebody else if you want to.
True.
Thank you so much, Diane. And thanks our audience. I hope our discussion will help those that are having these episodes. And like always, I encourage you to reach out to our guests. They have different modalities of energy healing that they can help you with. And keep working on your dreams. Get your journal, like Diane said. Start thinking about symbols and start thinking about the big picture here and the learning, the the experience. This is and the learning, the teachings this is bringing to your life. So thanks for listening, and until next time, sweet dreams.